All right, so today I have a very special guest on our YouTube channel. We have Dan, and is it Dan Levene?
It is.
And Dan is the only one who responded to our call to action on June's Top 5 Pens video, where we asked for everybody to send in videos with their favorite pen. And Dan did it. He's the only one that did it. So we said, instead of doing a compilation video, hey, let's chat. But we're just gonna talk about pens and, you know, hang out. Dan, say hello to everybody here.
Hello. Meet you all.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Tom.
Yeah.
I see you so often. You know what it's like. You begin to feel like you know people.
I know.
Yourselves.
It's a lot of fun though. It's like I really enjoy coming across, especially when we used to do the pen shows and everything. I enjoy coming across people that, you know, you have never met before, but like they already start to have like an intimate knowledge of, like, you know, your little personality quirks and like what you're like, and then you actually get to see them in the flesh, and it's a lot of fun. But yeah, you kudos to you. You are the sole winner of the. It was not really a contest or anything, but like the call to action to share with us your favorite pens, particularly your favorite pen, one pen. But yeah, we'll just talk about, you know, what are your favorite pens, you know?
Yeah. Well, first of all, just to say, I said to my wife, I put in for a competition for this pen website, but then it turned out that I was the only one who submitted something, and it wasn't really competition anyway. So she had to laugh. But yeah, I love my pens. I've always, I think the first, I'm not sure what my first fountain pen, it might have been, what are those, the famous Parkers? It's
oh, the 51? Or the
51.
or something like the Vacuumatic. I have
no, the 51.
No,
my
51.
father had one, and I think he moved to a ballpoint and he gave it to me. And I probably destroyed it because I wanted to get the gold out.
You were salvaging it for the gold.
But
when about was this? What year was this about?
Oh goodness, I must have probably been 8 or 9. But after that, I think I had a Lamy.
Okay.
The Lamy Safari.
Yeah, that actually happens to be my first foray into fountain pens, was the Safari, which I actually still have. This is the original one with the black nib and the black clip that I have from years ago.
But I wrote with that for years, and then I had I think it's Parker 45s, which were quite nice actually.
They are. They're very nice, like hardy type of pens that, I mean, still you see them on eBay popping up, like, you know, people, you could get them pretty affordably too.
Yeah, and I still have a couple from them, and I have one of them with a gold nib, and it's a very nice pen.
Yeah.
And then I think the next pen I remember was a Schaefer. I forget what the model was called, but it was one of those with those sort of nice nibs. It was a steel nib.
Okay.
And I used that I used that to death for about 10 years. Because I wanted a Parker 51, but I'm not sure I could find one that I could afford. And I got a Karen.
Oh, nice. The Waterman, yes.
Yeah, that's quite a few years ago. I did quite a lot of research. It's a nice pen. It's a very nice pen. I think it's, 14 karat. It's
and it's got the inlaid nib, and just everything looks very streamlined and has a nice feeling in hand.
I tried to undo it and get this thing to line up, but you need a special plier one day.
Yeah, that's one of those things that drive me crazy sometimes. It's like when the things that should line up just don't line up, and you're just kind of like, I just wish it just could just turn a little bit more this way, and it doesn't. But that's a beautiful pen, though. It's a great writer.
Nice pen. I found with pens over time, and then I started researching and watching videos. I think I was watching some of your very old videos. Weren't you doing more calligraphy in the beginning?
Like it was focused a bit more on like the handwriting. We talk a lot about the pens, but we also I do occasionally, like we just did the TWSBI for the love of writing thing. So we're kind of trying to get back into doing a little bit more of just like the pure like writing videos, because that's something that is just enjoyable just to watch on its own. It doesn't have any, you know, like, let's say like salesy sort of component where it's like, oh, well, here's this really nice pen and here you can buy it. But like, you know, just something that just for the enjoyment of writing and, you know, just for pleasure. But I understand that you do you actually, you know, study, or you're an academic that actually relates to writing and to writing in its, not only in its current form, but like in the form that it took like years and years ago, back even before fountain pens, right?
Absolutely. I mean, my education is a sort of mixed bag. I actually started off as a fine artist, and I trained as a fine artist, and then I couldn't make a living out of it, and so I decided to sort of try something else. So
well, that was me too. I graduated with a BFA, so Bachelor of Fine Arts, and
oh, really?
yeah. But then what I wanted to do is I wanted to go into at least like something that was creative.
Yeah, I mean. I also ended up working in foundries for many years. So I did a traditional apprenticeship in lost wax bronze casting. And
oh, nice.
And I even had my own foundry for a couple of years. That was hard work. And I decided to sort of do something else. But when I moved into academia, at first it was a shock. Am I not going to be an artist anymore? Mm-hmm. But I found in time that it doesn't matter what you do. It's about being creative in your approach in life.
Absolutely. That's what I've found too, is that like, you don't need to have the title of like, let's say painter or writer or anything like that. But what you end up doing, whatever it is that you end up doing, you end up influencing it somehow with creativity. You know, even when I find like, I had to kind of force myself to cook, like when I moved in with my now wife, is that as I really wasn't like that much of a cook, but she was even less of a cook like than I was. So she would like threaten to light the house on fire because of the fact that like she's just that bad, or burn herself at the same time. But like, so I kind of stepped into that role, and I realized that it was, regardless of whatever it was that I was doing, like I just liked making something for other people.
It's all about the creative process. So I just changed format from chisels and paints and pastels to, in a sense, to pens and keyboard. And instead of canvas or stone, I use academic journals and books. That's what, and I've written some strange books, academic books that very few people read and even less can afford. But going back to your question about writing and the connection in terms of my academic, I mean, obviously, as growing up as a child and up into my early 30s when I studied fine art and practiced as an artist, so I did a lot of drawing and as you say. But in my academic study, I turned out that I had a talent of reading these very strange ancient manuscripts in unusual languages. So I became a real specialist in these, particularly in these late antique, so you're talking 5th to 7th century.
Okay.
They're called magic bowls, so it sounds very... but that's an academic term. Magic is an academic term. In a sense, it's saying that through use of language or incantation or ritual, you can mainly do healing and protection.
Okay.
It comes from the principle, if you think, I mean... you have it in Genesis, but you also have it in the New Testament, that God uses language to create the world. Mm-hmm. Right.
Or like naming, like Adam names all of the animals,
Adam names all
right.
of the animals, but God says, let there be light, and there's light. He uses language. And this sort of idea, if you think that... because writing is a technology, and it's a relatively new technology. I think people forget that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're talking the first really properly used writing systems are the Egyptians and the Sumerians, and you're talking about about 3rd, 4th millennia BCE. That's not such a long time ago in terms of human existence.
Exactly.
You know, the idea that language has a kind of a supernatural, I mean, it is magical. You don't, I think, have to be far out New Age to sort of realize that a bunch of scribbles actually convey meaning. Is really quite extraordinary.
It is.
We sort of take it for granted.
That's what I've read several books on writing, and one of the ones that really made an impact with me was Stephen King's On Writing, and he equates writing to low-grade telepathy, or like just being able to, like, you know, go into somebody's head and plant an idea or create a fictional scene, you know, and just be able to put it into somebody's mind. Just reading and understanding that just changed my way of thinking about writing, you know. And then also there was Ted Chiang. He wrote this book of short stories called Exhalation, and he also writes about writing and how you know, writing the truth and writing and like what that means in terms of a society that wasn't grown up on like having writing as like a system of communication, that everything was done you know, as a verbal tradition, and then versus like our society now where we not only have writing but we also have backups of like video and other pieces of information that people could go back on and try to ascertain the truth about something, it's really wild to see like how innocuously simple writing can look, but like how complex and how beautiful that it actually is.
And writing systems, when they appear, they don't take time to develop.
Mm-hmm.
Once the idea is there, it's there, and you have full-blown text. And you were mentioning orality. It's very interesting, moving from orality to writing, to print, and now to the digital. Now, when one comes into being, the other doesn't stop.
Right.
I forget whose quote this is, but I do use it with my students and with myself. That writing is thinking on paper. Mm-hmm. Have you heard that one?
Yes.
And again, so you can think in your head, but it's very different when you think when you're writing.
Absolutely. Because
you actually think together with the mechanical. And I find writing a very sort of sensual experience. And if you look again at the before print era, when you have a text that's written, in order to make it again, you'd have to copy it. And what usually happens, except for very few texts, that you'll have like a bunch of versions. You'll find, archaeologically, we'll find that there's 50, 100, 1,000 manuscripts of a particular text. And if you compare them, you'll see they're all different.
Just those slight little edits here and there.
Often big edits.
Yeah.
Quite big changes. And if you think of that, because you haven't got one to copy from. Mm-hmm. So the scribe who was asked to do copy might have seen 3 or 4 that were all different. And he had to decide how to make his one. And he might want to add, or he might want to correct. And if somebody's paying him a lot, he might want to make it bigger and more lavish.
Right.
If somebody wasn't paying him quite enough, he might...
start to leave off a few pages. Like, oh, this part really wasn't that interesting.
Well, not that important. The people who work with manuscripts, like myself, are very, very used to this. This sort of traditional philological discipline sees the scribe as a corrupter because they want to see what the original is. But I think the scribe was very learned and significant and important. He's not an invisible person, because each scribe had to be very knowledgeable to be able to make a text that might be different, because he knew they were all a bit different, but in their mind, all the different ones were the same.
Right, right. So they have to kind of like almost synthesize all of the parts that
the ones they think are right.
Right.
But that's part of the beautiful sensuality and organic quality of writing that's so much more human. I mean,
right.
Don't get me wrong, I like using my computer. Mm-hmm. But when I use my pens, now I have to change constantly.
Oh, the change about what?
I have to change pen.
Oh, okay.
Almost in mid-sentence, because I feel that I want another nib. Or, I've got so many inked up, and it's like, no, I want something, or the ink isn't right, or I've got so many different pens with different kinds of nibs.
That's the beauty about it, is just having a wide array to accomplish different tasks. Like, I was just doing it yesterday. I was taking notes when reading a book, and I was doing, like, let's say the header in one type of pen, and then I would do like the little sub bullets underneath with a different pen that had a different color of ink in it, just to give it like a little, just to be able to, when I read it again, I could see more clearly how the information is organized.
I do that a lot with note taking. It's different colors and different nibs.
What do you think that people are going to think of us, let's say, a millennium in the future, when they're reading, let's say, not manuscripts, but let's say like our journals or notebooks that are recovered and found like somewhere dug up, and they look at it and you see like, rainbow of colors from like, like a fuchsia hot red, and then there's like a key lime green, and then a blue, and it's like what do they make about that sort of thing?
Well, I'm sure somebody will write a PhD about it. I find that in terms of writing, that sensual experience of writing, it is the shape of the pen, the feedback of the nib. I don't know, the way the ink comes out, seeing the ink dry as you write, just goes well for me with the experience of writing as a creative act.
Absolutely.
I just love it. I see people using ballpoints all the time, and you can't knock the good old ballpoint.
It's got its own use somewhere in there.
Well, it's got its own use,
yeah.
And the yellow Bic is a design classic from the 50s, I think.
Yeah, it's other than just maybe changing the colors on the outside and offering them in multiple packages with other different types of ink colors, it's pretty much been staying the same. So.
Well, I showed my students in one seminar, I don't remember what was the context, but I showed them a Lamy 2000 fountain pen, a Jinhao, 59,
okay,
and a Bic. And I asked them to put them in order of what was the newest and what was the oldest.
Okay.
They all thought the Bic was the newest. All of them, which was quite funny, but...
Yeah.
Shall I show you a couple of pens?
Sure, absolutely.
Well, I'll start with one of my Urushi pens.
Nice.
Now, you can't get this Urushi for love or money.
Okay, yes.
You'll pay thousands and thousands of pounds for the most beautiful design, but you'll never get what I have on this pen.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's got bubbles and drips. Hey, it's a one-off. I bought this. It's an Indian ebonite pen by a company called ASA.
Yep, familiar with them.
Bought it secondhand. I like the size. It's got some problems, but it was an eyedropper.
Okay.
Which made it impossible to use.
You get problems with like leaking and things like that, or?
Leaking, big drops coming out.
Right.
I think the first thing I did was, after a while, I drilled it through and so I could put a proper nib in. So I put in well, right now, actually, I have a Diplomat.
Okay.
A nice medium diplomat in it. And I could put a converter. So suddenly it was like, wow.
Now I like this pen.
Yeah.
So you did the urushi yourself on there?
Well, I bought some urushi. I've obviously seen the Craftsman thing, and I thought I'll try.
It's like all you have to do is just paint it and wait. That's all, right?
Well, I realize you also have to. I just sort of painted it, but I see you have to paint it and then sort of scrape it off, and so it's as thin as possible, and you need special condition. After two lots, I got fed up. But it's a nice thick. It's got the urushi feel.
Nice.
And I even did a unique carving into it. That's in Old Ethiopic. It's medhanit. It means both healing and salvation.
Nice.
So again, because I work with these sort of magical medical texts, I started working about 7 years ago in Ethiopia, in Ethiopic. The word for salvation, as in terms of Christianity, the savior of the world, is also the same word for healing and medicine. It's one and the same thing. So I have this on my pen. This is nice wet pen, and I'm finding it very nice for drawing.
Nice.
Because that's one of the other things. Writing is nice, but when I draw, I like to smudge. I don't know.
Yeah, I see that.
And the thing is, I have to change fingers because if I use different colored pens, I don't want to.
Exactly. Then you're going to smudge the wrong color, and it starts to get all muddy.
So I start usually with one finger, then the other. Then I have to move to the other hand. So that's one pen. I'll continue with another pen that I got involved in making, just because it's fun.
Okay.
I had an idea of doing maybe making some pens with a friend in Ethiopia. I thought it would, maybe they could make some money, and it didn't work out. But I made a pen. I bought a very cheap Chinese pen.
Okay.
With a wooden back. I don't remember what it's called. It was something like less than £5. And this is wood. So I covered it with a drawing and did about 1,000 layers of lacquer.
Well, nice.
Very difficult to see, but this is a very well-known church theme that you see pictures in church. One of the miracles of Mary. It's the cannibal.
So it's all hand-painted by you, then? So.
Well, I did it on a piece of paper. I tried to paint it on the thing, and I couldn't. And then I sort of glued it on and then did a million.
And then the lacquers, okay.
And the cap, I managed to get these Ethiopian, let's see if I can find one, crosses etched. Does that show?
A little bit.
So anyway, these you can't get for love of money.
They're very special because they're customized. They're just, you've gone through the trouble of making them uniquely yours.
Let's go very different kind pen. A very I don't know how you can tell me how they sell, but I bought an Aeon.
Okay. It's not quite the most popular Lamy release, but it's relatively new. So it's not really hasn't been out for a very long time, maybe like a few years.
Because
the kind of like the little play that's in the cap that's there.
It never dries on me. I think I've got a medium nib. It's lovely and juicy. It's quite girthy.
Yeah, and I think that's what it's really kind of like a happy in between, but like let's say having something the size of like a 2000, where it's kind of got like a little bit larger of a more streamlined shape, but yet is all aluminum. Like it just has that that metallic feel, as opposed to like the 2000 with the macrolon finish and everything. So
well, I got a diplomat. One I put the nib on my homemade urushi Frankenstein thing, and I forget what model it is. It's quite girthy. It's sort of black lacquer looking type thing.
Okay.
It wasn't cheap. I got it for a good price, but I think they cost the better part of £100.
Okay.
To be honest with you, this costs half the money, and the quality of this, the design is phenomenal. I like the way that the back piece is aluminium. It's made from one bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that they would mill it. They mill that right in the But that's what really impresses me about Lamy is that they really don't have an ornate style, but they're just very functionally well put together, and it's just like you can't argue with just the simplicity of their design. It's just this total Bauhaus aesthetic, you know.
And I've got a Safari, and I've got the All Star, and I never really liked the design much, to be perfectly honest. But it's such a good pen. Practically indestructible.
I mean, yeah.
Fabulous.
It's not exactly the most like prettiest, looking pen, but it just works and it just feels great. I do like the grip section too. Like I'm a fan of the grip section. I just feel like you have a little bit more control over it, especially if like you're writing for a while and that you start to get a little bit of like the perspiration on the hands and everything like that. So, and then it's like things like the clip, just like the clip is so, it's virtually indestructible.
And it's one of the easiest to change nibs, and I've never had a problem with the Lamy nib.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
another nib, you change it, you stick it on, bish bosh.
Yep.
It works. I want to give a shout out to another pen. I forget what the model name is, and it's probably, in terms of materials, not much more than the All Star, but it does cost a bit more, and it's this Aurora.
Nice. That's the style, right?
Yes. Well done. And it's simple. That's the thing with Aurora, though. I've got 3 Auroras. Mm-hmm. I've got the old 88, which is just to die for. I mean, the nib on that is just... I mean, the whole thing. I mean, this is really... I agree with everyone. And design-wise, I mean, this guy, fabulous pen. But this, I think you get them for 60, 70 pounds.
They're not that expensive. They're considered part of, like, let's say they're even less expensive than, let's say they're one of their best selling lines is the Ypsilon. Like, the style has a little bit more of a contemporary look, whereas I think the Ypsilon's a little bit more of that classical vintage sort of like you've got the rounded finial ends and they have either the gold or tone or the silver tone clips and nibs as well. But the style is also quite up there because it's just that it's got the same nibs that they make out of the factory in Torino, and they do a phenomenal job of producing their own quality components.
Do they use these nibs on other pens?
I believe that they also do have them.
Yeah. For a steel nib, it's got a bit of bounce. And let's see. Oh, I've got an interesting one now. Maybe I've got so many. I mean, I've got Franklin Christoph 65.
And that's actually one that I had. I had that at one point. The Stabilis model with the faceted one side there. I have it. I used to have it in the antique glass, which was the Coke bottle. They call that the Coke bottle pen because it kind of had like that frosted demonstrator look on it. But yeah, I love Franklin Christoph. Just has like a certain way of just being able to make these little tweaks of designs on pens and make them totally unique and functional at the same time.
I mean, this is the 65, so it's a 5. I think the story was that they made them for trying out the nibs. Mm-hmm. But the design is really... It's a gorgeous pen. It writes well. I wouldn't say Franklin Christoph is like Lamy, but this pen has that timeless design to it. I like that.
And I feel like it also has there's a certain amount of concentration and a certain amount of like focus on design too, like that you could just tell it was very thoughtful. It was very methodical as far as like what they wanted to do with the pen. Not like, let's say, like one of those really ornate Monte Grappa pens that you're just like, they sculpted angels on the side of it, and you're just like, how does anybody like hold this pen comfortably, or has anybody like rest it and not damage the pen? They take the form and they build it into an art object rather than like a pen. But like with the Franklin Christoph or Lamy, they're like, we need to optimize this as a writing instrument first, and then we could like add different types of materials like diamond cast or translucent resins and things like that to make it look nicer.
If I literally had no limit of money, I think I might buy the Sylvester Stallone
the Chaos pen,
which is the exact opposite of the Franklin Christoph. They do make some ridiculous pens. I mean, they're fun, and obviously people buy them, so hey. But having said that, I think a shout out for a company like Moonman. I mean, you get this for, I think, $5. I don't remember what the model is. And actually, I've got, the nib that it came was good, but I've got a Visconti nib in this.
Oh, wow. That's a nice upgrade.
Yes, it hasn't got the charm of the 65, but I don't think, as I understand, it's milled. You know what? With a decent nib, I can't see why this is less good than a Franklin Christoph in terms of quality of material and ultimate quality. Okay, you might want a nicer nib. The nib here works well, but this is...
It's cool to see the ink going around in there. What kind of ink do you have in it?
Diamine yellow.
Oh, okay.
That's the diamine yellow. And that's nice. Talking about pens that last, I haven't got many pens like this, but this thing. This is a Schaefer Balance, the large one. Instead of a clip, it's got
the ring top, yeah.
Okay.
Very cool.
I paid £100 for that, which is not bad at all. It's got a sack, and I can't say I like the sack.
No, I'm not a fan of it either. So,
but it works.
Yep.
And this pen is comfortable. It's the Franklin Christoph of its day. What a beauty. And it works as if it came out of the factory yesterday. Let's go another slightly fancy pen. One of my fancy. I'm sure you can guess what this is.
It looks to be a Sailor, right?
It is a Sailor 1911, but it has a Naginata Togi nib.
Oh, nice.
And Sailors, I've got 2 Sailors. What can I say? We talk about German perfection, and okay, this isn't a Bauhaus design. This thing, this isn't going to rust on you. It's not going to stop working. It feels exceptional in the hand. The nib is, they're all good, but the thing about Sailor nibs is that they're not clinical. Lamy nibs are clinical. They're nice, I like them, but there's soul in this nib. I don't know if you feel that about pens.
Well, I mean, I kind of feel that way a little bit more. I would probably say like towards the, like I would say like I'm preferential to like things that like have a little bit more balance, like the flexible nibs. They just speak to me in ways, but I do also appreciate, like I have a Sailor Rialo with the music nib, and just the ability to write in like that stub sort of italic style. and then do it in a way that you could write broadly in one way of holding it, and then if you flip the nib over, you could have a very crisp italic, sort of writing on it. It just, like, I'm just blown away by like how useful that nib is, like, and that's like they just have like their craft is being able to hone in on like how to create that writing experience. Sailor, you hardly would ever have any issues with a pen that comes and it's like anything less than outstanding.
That's true of Sailor and Platinum, but I think a bit more of Sailor. It's not just the versatility of the nib, that feedback. Mm-hmm. We talk about feedback, but for me, the feedback is not a pen that's sort of glassy smooth, but feedback is when you get used to a pen, the feedback changes as you write it, so you really get an ongoing
evolution
sense.
Yeah.
With it, I don't know. It's just a black pen, but one day I'll get a King of Pen. I hear good things, but
now those nibs, and I have one in the Pro Gear. This is the new Midnight Blue, and this is the they call it Pillow Book edition. It's the color is inspired by the Japanese the Pillow Book story. It's just essentially it's like the color of the pen that's here, but this is the King of Pen. And really, what the big difference I feel with the King of Pen versus, let's say, the regular or the 1911 large is that the nib itself is just it like if you really liked the nib on that pen, this pen has got a different feel altogether because it's larger, it has like a bit more of a softness about it, and also just a slight hint more smoother than like the 21 karat on either the large or the Pro Gear regular. But really, the one thing I would love about the King of Pen is if they just upgraded the converter, because it's just like you have such a large pen, you have just the standard Sailor converter in it, and I like the Rialo option for the 1911 or the Pro Gear, to make it a piston.
There was a one King of Pen with a piston. Let's do something a bit strange. A Frankenstein. This is a Parker. You said the 51 is the. Well, this is essentially a Parker 52 with the stainless steel nib. Mm-hmm. But I bought it secondhand, and the barrel was messed up, was cracked. So I put this nice gin hell.
Yeah, I recognize that type of barrel that's on there. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to change the sack, but I haven't yet. Sellotape's working with it. But it's a really nice juicy nib. This is my Urushi pen. That's one of the Platinums.
Very nice.
These are the silk print. They print them and then paint them off by hand. Something like that, isn't it? Silk screen and then...
I believe so, yeah. So it's not completely hand painted, but like they at least get the the basics down.
I think they probably do a couple of dots on it or something, but
that's been one of the more popular pens I've been seeing people collect recently, or a lot of the Pilot and Amiki Urushi Makie type pens. It's just amazing to see like the level of artistry throughout the with the gold dust and the abalone shell with the Rodden pens, and just they do an amazing job. If there's anybody that are making like fine art quality pens out there besides, let's say, the Montegrappas of the world, like the Japanese Makie and Urushi techniques are just out of this world, just beautiful.
No, they must be nice, but you see the difference between a pen like that and a pen like this, or a King of Pen, is that these are pens to be used.
Right.
Someone might use those sort of... I've watched... I don't know if you got one of the boxes with all the series from Pilot, or the Boulez got them.
Yeah. Those I couldn't bring myself to be able to use one of those on a daily basis, or even take it out of the house. It's just they're too precious.
I have here, I bought this is one, one of these on eBay, supposedly an old Japanese urushi, one of those unknown companies.
Okay.
Probably from the first part of the 20th century. With a nib, some steel nib that's like, you could use it for acupuncture.
It's that sharp?
Yeah, it is. On some papers it actually writes quite nicely, and it's got the sort of the traditional mechanism. Mm-hmm. It feels nice in the hand. Oh, it's messy.
Uh-oh.
It's still got some ink in there.
We do have to wrap things up, but if you wanted to talk about your number one pen, Dan, we could do that to kind of like.
Spoke about?
Yeah, we could do that.
Well, okay. I must admit I don't know if it's my best pen, but I thought for the video this was the best value pen that I think I have.
Well, when you pick it up, do you feel that sparking of joy? Like you pick up that pen and you just feel like that is the one pen I'm going to be writing with today?
No. This gives me more, and most of the pens that I showed you, well, not most of them, but some of them give me something special. Mm-hmm. The thing about this one is it feels indestructible. Mm-hmm. It's beautifully designed, hardly a twist, very smooth. The lacquer on it is super tough. It's the right size. Mr. Penn's grinds, which are standard on the nibs that you get from him, are just, I don't know if you've ever used one of these.
No, I have not actually.
Everything about it is right. I recommended this pen to a friend of mine who's a bit older than me. Mm-hmm. He's a statistician. He's an academic, a professor, and he had a fountain pen that he used for years with the same ink, mm-hmm. for years and years and years, and it broke. And I told him to buy one of these, and he bought one of these. And 3 years later, he splashed out and bought another one.
Oh, nice.
And that's kind of the test.
If they're willing to come back and get another one.
Well, also come back, but this guy, he uses his pen every day, intensely. He's one of those guys, fountain pen user, old school. And when I thought about the video for you, I thought, I've got much nicer pens. Mm-hmm. But if I needed one pen that would just do everything for me, and that would survive, and that's value for money, if I lost it, I could afford another one.
Very good.
And I like the sort of humility of the company, and I think he does okay.
And that's Italics, right?
Italics. This is the Parsons Essential. He does a few other models. I tried one of the other ones, and I didn't like the design as much. This one, I think he has the bodies made in China, but they're not. They feel
substantial.
How he's got other stuff. The lacquer is stronger. The thread is perfect. Clip's a bit stiff, but it works. Finish with a thought. I forget what the film was called. It's with Russell Crowe. Is it called Beautiful Mind? Right.
Where he was this Nash, right? The guy who he had like some schizophrenic or like he had some mental issues, but he was also brilliant with mathematics and things like that.
And then at the end, he kind of finds his way somehow, and he's old and he's recognized and he's emeritus, and they all come and they put the pen. Remember that scene?
I haven't seen that movie in a long time, but yeah, that's
the mark of honor. They take their pens out and they put their pens, give them their pens. That's the ultimate mark of honor, and I like that. but it kind of worried me. Should I carry a separate pen?
If either of us did that to somebody, that it must be a mark of a tremendous honor.
No, I haven't. I haven't had many PhD students that finish, partly because I do something so esoteric, but every time a student of mine finishes, and during the Viva, I like to give them a fountain pen.
Nice, nice.
And it was quite funny. One of my students, I gave him one of these Mont Blanc Monterosas, as old as me. Very nice pen. And it was full. And he's not a fountain pen guy. Brad went into his Viva, and he did very well. But he was throwing his pen around and doing this, and he completely covered in ink.
I really appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us, and
I'll be looking forward to
and I'll be putting a little package together to send out to you, to thank you for your participation in our sort of contest, or that really wasn't, but we'll put something together.
Put it in my CV. I came first.
And you have a YouTube channel, so if you want to, we'll put a link in the description there for your YouTube channel, so people could check you out on there. And you have your artwork that's on there, as well as I think a few interviews I think you've done before for your academic studies.
Yeah, well, these are things I did without grants and without pay and without any skills really, but it's the sort of creative part of me, so I made them. And hopefully they're interesting and instructive and nice. Again, it's just a form of creative. Thank you very much for this opportunity. It was fun to engage, and it was fun to chat.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll let you get to your tea. I appreciate you taking the time to talk and share your artwork and your work in in academic studies and in writing and everything, and sharing your awesome collection of fountain pens there. And thank you for watching. So stay inky.